Welcome back to Talk Property to Me. My name is Brad East.
And I'm Thomas Hook from Walkom Real Estate.
So today we're going to be talking about, our predictions on property prices in Australia and more locally Newcastle, New South Wales over the next couple of years.
Yes.
So what we're going to be talking about to sort of break down how we think these prices are going to go. We're going to go through the construction costs, approval levels, immigration rates, and some of those effects of the global pandemic. Going to get some of your insights of what you're seeing happening at the moment with listings and sales, and I guess trying to find a balance between that supply and demand and some of the initiatives that places such as Japan and Sweden are doing. So before we get into it, at the end of this episode, if there is anything that you want us to address or you have any questions, just shoot us a message or leave a comment on the YouTube video or send us one directly to us, and we're happy to answer any questions. And also, if you have any suggestions for topics, let us know. But what we'll get into first is it's pretty well common knowledge at the moment that there isn't enough houses in Australia for the amount of immigration happening.
Yeah. It's been a topic for
a while.
A couple of years now, yeah.
So run through some stats. I love my numbers. So construction costs have risen 30%, since the beginning of 2021.
Yep.
Like, that's mental.
Yeah. Well, the COVID pandemic obviously brought that forward, and building costs, and they've skyrocketed in a short period of time, and essentially
it's gone nuts. So
it's gone crazy, and people just can't afford to build. Is the long and short of it.
Well, you look at this. Residential timber framing alone has increased by 39% in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's an obvious reason here why the construction levels are not meeting immigration levels.
Yeah.
It is costing too much.
Well, that's right, yeah. They can't. You're never going to be able to meet the demand with those rising costs, because the average person just can't build, even investment properties. They're not going to be able to afford to build them.
Well, you look at $1 million build in 2021, now it costs you 1.3.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's
like your square metre rates have gone from 2,000 to 4,000.
Yeah.
And even beyond that, like some high-end properties are up around 6 and 7,
So according to CoreLogic, the biggest contributor to that going through the roof, I guess, is the supply chain disruptions, elevated prices for timber, steel, concrete. You mentioned concrete prior to this episode, that the concrete has gone up substantially.
Yep.
There's also a tight labour market at the moment. I mentioned it previously as well, that there's a lot of government spending in infrastructure at the moment, which is taking
so it's taking all the
labour away.
Over
Correct. It's taking labour away from your residential markets and putting it more into a commercial sector.
Yeah, and I mean the other issue there too, Brad, is that contractors and subcontractors, and even bigger, say if they've got 10 or 15 guys that work for them, and they get a contract job that's contracted by the government, they can pretty well name their price, because they might be there for 12 or 18 months. Say it's a hospital or a medical centre or something that's government based. They're on that job for 18 months or 12 or 18 months, and then they know they're getting paid. Whereas if they get a mum and dad job, or 2 or 3, if mum and dad stop paying,
that's right.
They're not going to. Their guys are all gone. They lose all there.
It's a well-known thing that if you're doing a tender for a government organisation or a government project, you're going to throw a fair percentage buffer on it.
It's a 30% buffer. Yeah.
You're going to get paid more.
Yeah.
There's a reason why more of these builders or these constructions or whatever it is are going towards the commercial sector or the government sector as opposed to
tier 1.
local.
They're going to tier 1 because they know, or tier 1 or 2, and because they know they're going to get, paid. Number 1, get paid. Number 2, they're going to be safe there for the next period of time.
So that's one of the things that you look at, I guess, when you're trying to figure out what property prices are going to do.
Yep.
There's stuff all construction happening at the moment because it costs too much.
Yep.
Now, if we look at the housing approval levels versus immigration rates, so in 2023, the Australian government granted 1.1 million new visas.
Wow.
Which includes permanent and temporary migration. So a lot of that would have already been in Australia.
Yep.
So they've gone from temp to permanent.
Permanent visas.
But that is still a lot.
Yeah.
According to ABS, so Australian Bureau of Statistics, housing approvals in that same period dropped by 8.1%. So we have a situation here in Australia where immigration levels are the highest they've ever been, but approval levels are dropping. So it's a no-brainer that there's going to be housing shortages.
Yeah, well, they've been talking about that for, the best part of 2 years since the back end of COVID, it was only early last year that they started, let immigration back in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it early last year?
I think
or
the year
late
before.
22.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah.
So
So
it was paused.
It was just paused. It was paused naturally, but with COVID.
Yep.
But then when they opened it up, I don't think they realised how quickly it would generate and get to these figures. Like that's enormous.
Yeah, 1.1 million.
And where do they all congregate? Where do they all?
Well, historically,
they don't go to regional areas.
No, historically they go to Sydney and Melbourne.
Melbourne. Yes, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. Yeah.
Correct. Sydney and Melbourne are the two big ones, according to this. That's mostly because of opportunities. So you've got more work. It's
Infrastructure.
It's like any metro.
Public transport.
Correct.
Yep.
They're not going to move to Wagga and
International airport. They can get out.
So that. When a lot of these immigrants, when they're coming in, they're not purchasing straight away. They're going straight into the rental market, which is pushing down the vacancy rates. So rental vacancy rates in Australia are around 1% nationwide.
Well, obviously I pay attention to our vacancy rates here, and it's been hovering from 1.2 to 1.5 for the last 12, north for 12 months.
Which is mental.
Yeah.
I honestly feel sorry for people that have to find a property at the moment for a rental. It's
difficult. Yeah, like I even know with our investment properties, they're rarely vacant.
Yep.
And I think at the moment I looked on our rent, on our advertising there a few days ago, and there was only, I think we manage about 750 odd properties or something like that.
Yep.
And I think there was only 6 that were available.
Yeah.
Which is not many. And they're all like the average price. Price now is $650. I heard.
And you get to there's obviously a level of desperation that comes into at that level as well. Like you see a lot of, I guess landlords putting timelines. You've got to be out by December.
Yeah.
So then it's just bulk panic.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the Christmas panic break. Yeah. And we've all seen it. And
so to summarise on that, we've got housing approval levels that have dropped 8.1% in 2023, yet we've got the highest immigration levels in history. Or it says here, one of the highest. So right up there.
Yeah, like that's...
We kind of understand that immigration builds the economy, and that's why they do it. It's economic growth. But at the same time, there's got to be a place to put these people.
For sure.
It can't just keep going like it is.
But the thing is, and the way I see it is, they've got to go regional. You can't just keep pushing Sydney out to Western Sydney, Penrith and beyond. And naturally, they're putting that...
They try those incentives,
but... They're spending that bulk amount of money out there to put that international airport in Western Sydney, which is great, but they're going to have to build around that.
Yeah, there's not much around there.
No, there will be.
That London area.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, they need to start pushing out into more regional areas, in my opinion. But
so this is still in my opinion, a gift that keeps on giving from COVID. All of these issues, I think we can pinpoint back to COVID in 2020, 2021. Now, these national lockdowns, what happened, as we know, at the start of those lockdowns, the government assumed, I don't think that anyone really knew, but they assumed the construction market was going to absolutely flop. That it was going to absolutely flop. So what they did is they had those, remember the building incentives?
Yeah.
I think you got $25,000 or something if you started a construction contract that year. And
they were concerned about construction because it's one of the biggest.
Yeah. And then you got the renovation,
in the country,
substantial renovation bonuses, all these things. So what that then created was a ridiculous amount of demand.
Which in turn...
Which then that puts a strain on supply.
And prices.
Yeah. So it was like a perfect storm for builders over the last 4 years where...
builders, anyone in the building industry,
They were literally like killing it. Like these builders were absolutely killing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if you've seen the South Park episode where the all the smart people use AI, and it was all the handymen are all rich. It was pretty similar. Builders were absolutely killing it, and we saw it in our car loan business. We were doing, you know, Raptor Ute after Raptor Ute, and Malibu boats and jet skis and, you know, caravans. You know, not a $50,000 caravan. Needed $180,000
the big one.
titanium
And
zone something.
The wife's got a brand new Range Rover.
Yeah, for business use only. So these businesses, for obvious reasons, you know, when times are good, you scale.
You always scale up and scale back depending on the economy. But
these businesses were absolutely scaling, putting on lots of staff, taking on a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
And then what was happening is they were locking in, because most lenders require fixed price building contracts. So they're locking in prices in 2020, 2021. I personally did that at Catherine Hill Bay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I locked in on a 2020 price, but it actually started in almost 2022 by the time all the delays went through. So they're then building at a loss.
Yep.
So all of these fixed price building contracts come in, they're building it at a cost of 30, because remember that the prices have gone up, you know, probably in that period, probably went up 20%.
15, 20, yeah.
Yep. So they're already eating into, what's the builder's margin, usually about 30%?
Well, I think it's a bit less than that.
Yeah.
So 20 and 30, depending on the product. Because they see, as you said, a lot of them scale up and get that. If the bigger the supply, so say from a local supplier, the more product they buy, better buying rate, and that's how they scale up on their, you know, they make income from that as well. But they weren't able to do that during this time because of what you're about to say. You know, obviously things are.
And then when it started to tighten up, all those margins were lost.
Yep.
They'd scaled up. They've got huge expenses now for their Malibu and their caravan and all these things.
And they got 10 blokes working for them.
Correct. Yep. So it created a bit of a perfect storm there where they weren't able to keep up with it. And that's why we started seeing a lot of builders liquidate. Yeah. And we're still seeing it now, and that's because of the tax debt. Yeah. So there was a lot of there still is a lot of historical tax debts from COVID, where the government had this brilliant idea where they would just pause your activity statements. You know, don't worry about paying it, pay it back later. Yeah. And then fast forward, you know, 2 years, they're like, pay it back now. Yeah.
And you've got 8 quarters of
correct.
BAS to pay.
You got, you know, $800,000 and your quarterly income's 200.
Exactly.
You know, so
it's not. Yeah.
It was never going to work. So that's why we're getting the builders collapse and the kit home sort of ones. You know, like your Mastertons, your
Mac Jones, and
there is stuff all margins for the individual contractors to do those jobs.
Yeah, well, it's all volume. So they're just working on numbers.
So that's why those ones were held up a lot.
They'll excel in this market.
They're doing well now too because of the skilled immigration levels again.
But there's less. See, you can't compete with them.
No,
because you go like, for instance, when you did we built my business partner and I built investment units down at Spears Point, and we had a fixed price contract that was signed up in 2020, but even during that 2 year or 12-month build from 2021 to 2022. We saw that builder, he was a custom builder, and we saw him sort of lacking as well, and obviously stressing, and we could see this all happening ourselves. Yeah. And it, you know, that's from a custom, and he's obviously, and it was, you could just tell that obviously it was a fixed price, but
they slow it up.
Oh, well, it was slow. He was obviously trying to do other jobs as well to make more income because he was sort of probably cutting even on this.
Well, they start doing other jobs. They push them through first.
They just stick. But if it's a contract, you know, obviously there's penalties and stuff, but the penalties they don't outweigh the income that they do on another job if they had 2 or 3 going.
So I guess, you know, we've talked about the problems. There's construction costs are going up. Still, I think it's still went up 4% this year. So it isn't.
So it hasn't.
It hasn't fixed.
It's pretty even though.
It has come down. It's come down a lot, but it isn't as bad as it was. But it's not great.
There's definitely more supply out there though, so you can actually go and pick stuff up now rather than order it.
Approval levels are shit, in my opinion, and we still are having the flow-on effects from the pandemic. But how do we fix this? I think if if you speak to the government, they've got these, housing affordability, so National Housing Finance Investment. So they've got a few projects at the moment for that to bring down housing prices. They don't seem to work, in my opinion. A lot of these ones are just for low pricing price points, which is good. So low to middle income earners.
Yeah, but they're buying properties that are already built, aren't they? So there's bigger builders out there who build these.
I think they're
sort of
putting
lower
in
income.
I think they're proposing incentives to build.
Yep.
For
well,
investors.
what I think they're trying to do with the apartments, and I know there are buildings in town here where the state government will step in and try and push through the approvals if there's a certain number of low income earners or middle income earners that are able to buy into the building at a certain price. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. So there's incentives for developers to create these affordable housing things, but how many
rate doesn't really change.
Yeah, how many of them want to actually do it? I think there's been about 4 or 5 of those proposed in Newcastle, and I don't think one of them's gone up, has there?
Well, I think GWH.
They're doing one of them.
Names, they do a bit of it.
Yeah,
they've done it in town.
Yeah, they got the concrete slabs that they slap
together.
together.
They own all the companies.
Exactly, they own the concrete.
Well, they own it all. Yeah.
So
that's why they're able to do it, and
their margins are good.
Credit to them. That's what they've created. So
So there's government-led affordable housing programs. Whether they work or not, that's to be seen. One of the things I see, which is causing a lot of the delays, is councils. They're still taking. I remember reading not long ago, some councils are taking 6 months to do a DA.
Oh, it's more than that.
Yeah, that's mental.
Minimum.
The approval levels are down 10%.
Well, they cut back all their staff as well.
Yeah, so they can't be whinging on one hand going, we need more approvals, but then hang on, wait 6 months. Because it's just Kathy in there by herself.
And then your building costs have gone up again. The builder that you had a quote from.
People lose interest.
That's it. But there's not going to be more approvals whilst ever the building costs are there, as you know. But also, this is another issue, having the approval process as it is. They should have private certified. They should have a private sector if they're going to have private certifiers with the building. Why don't they have private
DAs?
Private, consultants that actually can push these through quicker to get approvals. But
they want the money.
But you see it and you watch anything that's bigger or a bigger scale project or something that's will have to be done locally. The state government step in and guess what? It's done straight away.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So anything they get involved with,
if it's got a bigger picture.
That's right. If the the state.
So one thing that's has been massive in them at the moment in especially Japan and Sweden, which has seen, according to this, significant success, is prefab housing. So they're basically making them like a mobile homes. So they're just slotting literally a
There's
big
a place
paddock.
around here called little homes or little they're like container homes.
They're getting these big paddocks and they're just slotting hundreds of prefab little one-bedders in there. So
it's a...
it's like a holiday home, really shit version of one.
It's a trailer park.
Correct.
But it's a quality one.
100%. So
but people have a home. So how do they buy the land? Or you're not buying the land, you're just buying a cabin, so to speak.
It'd be. I'm assuming it would be very similar to a
community title
like
or
an over 55s where you don't actually own
the land.
You own the asset.
You pay a rent for the land or something.
Correct. You pay your monthly fees or whatever it's going to be.
So where did you say this is in Sweden?
Japan and Sweden.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So that's
they're both pretty strong countries.
They are. And Japan, I'd like to think they're innovators. They've
got no land. So.
They don't. So they're probably stacking them on top of each other. You have to go up. You're 20 floors up.
And under.
You're in your container home up the top level, mate. But they're like, I haven't been to Japan, but some of their hotels are literally, it's just a bed and a sheet. Like
I've seen that. Yeah.
Like it's a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Like I think we don't have an issue with land in Australia.
No.
We have an issue with the construction side. So maybe these prefab things make them more affordable, almost like what you see at those retirement homes where they can deliver it on site, bolt it together and it's done.
It'll come down to the government and how they see the benefit for them out of this as well, remember. So if someone privately goes and buys 300 acres, right?
Yeah.
And turns that into one of these home parks, call it, what do the government get out of it? They're going to get a clip for they'll push
they'll
all
have
the
a-
rates up.
they'll have an approval
Everyone everyone will have individual rates, and it'll be another show. Put it that way. Yeah.
So what are you seeing locally, I guess, with prices and, I think from what I've seen locally, it will, not just locally, listings seem to be coming through, but I think vendor expectations are still very high.
Yeah, look, the start of this year was actually, it started off strong. I think there was a lot of talk around mortgage rates dropping and home loan rates and interest rates for that matter dropping, and that spiked the market there, and they sort of dangled the carrot, and then we got to winter, let's talk in seasons, and there was a bit more stock on the market than traditionally for winter, but things were still sort of rolling okay, and then it got to I personally saw it was July, August when it was really started to slow, and it's buyer inquiries down heavily. Listings are up. Springs, and talking seasons again, spring's naturally most people would like to sell in spring because it's spring, but
they want to move.
But there's probably people that are on the market right now and probably kicking themselves and saying, "Oh, I probably should have done this 3 or 6 months ago."
Yep.
Because we are seeing, days on market are on average probably anywhere up to some pockets up to 90 days. Like we're seeing listings sit for 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, mine was 4 months.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's probably average.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90 to 120 days, but your higher end market, so 5 million plus, you're seeing some properties that have been on the market for 12 months plus, which is going to take...
The biggest problem we had a lot of interest in that house, but the buyers had no urgency.
Yeah.
They're quite happy to come through, do an open and then disappear for 3 weeks.
No private inspections. There's no urgency.
They don't care.
Privates,
They're just like, there's heaps of listings out there at the moment.
Well, that's it. There's no FOMO. And until... and everyone's riding on the back of this interest rate
100%.
carrot, which will... there's chat about that happening pre-Christmas, but I don't know if that'll happen.
I think a smart government would do it pre-Christmas because the retail sector's absolutely cooked at the moment.
Yep.
But they're not smart. That's the problem. They'll wait until after Christmas. They'll probably do it in February.
Yeah, CBA came out this week and said that they're talking about it in December.
Yep.
Which
ANZ, I think,
which is only two.
It's not long.
It's only 2 decisions away, isn't it? So
usually they like dropping bombs around the Melbourne Cup Day.
Yeah, well,
I remember they did that. That was when they did that 0.5% increase.
That's right. Yeah,
it was on Melbourne Cup Day, so everyone's drunk.
Yep,
perfect. You've lost
so
on the race, and we're charging you
last year or the year before?
I think it was the year before.
Year before, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
that was the first of the
that was a big
increases.
One too.
It was half percent in one go.
No mucking around there, but locally, stock's up, buyer inquiries down, and buyers are making what we're seeing is they'll probably narrow their search down to 2 or 3 properties.
Yeah.
And then they'll analyse it for could be a week or 2 even before
they got time to.
There's time.
Yeah.
So there's just no urgency. That's what we're seeing. But in saying that, there's a lot of people browsing out there.
Oh yeah,
because it's a common question. We're saying, are you buying or browsing? And what's your situation? Where are you coming from? And we just started our search. We hear that 8 out of 10 people.
And we on my side as well. Borrowing capacities are cooked. You'll get a person with a single person with $100,000 income. They're lucky to buy for 500 at the moment.
Oh, you can't. Yeah,
it's mental.
But then they'll probably only have savings of 40 grand.
But then then they've got the option: do we wait for interest rates to come down, borrowing capacity to increase? But when I'm predicting, as soon as that happens, it's going to trigger the market again. The buyers are going to start becoming a little bit more active because their borrowing capacities increase. They now don't have to buy that piece of shit property. They can buy what they actually want.
Better,
And then it's a cycle. Prices go up. Then.
Yeah. Well, it's all. I mean, it is price driven at the moment. Anything, say, under $1 million, if it's a house, it's popular. There's baby boomers who are still buying. We're seeing.
The cash buyers.
We do a lot of apartment sales. My team, and we see, let's call it from 1.5 to 3.5 or 4 million.
Yeah,
a lot of cash buyers because they've sold their asset, or cash down. And
according to PEXA, 25% of sales at the moment are cash.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, and that's because baby boomers, they're the ones with the cash, and they're probably the ones driving up inflation as well.
Well,
because
that's it for today. Thanks for coming on. If anyone has any questions or comments on how they think this will be solved, we know how we're going to solve the vacancy rates, how we're going to solve all these issues. I'd love you to jump on, leave a comment, and if you have any suggestions for any future topics as well, jump on. Thanks for jumping on, mate.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.